Hi, I'm Lori Baker. This is Block Builders Workshop. Today we are working on a whirling pinwheels block, and we are using the template set from Fons and Porter, their whirling pinwheels template set. This is a great block for you if you want to try curved piecing, because the block is made in segments, and when you put the segments together, there's nothing that you need to match. So it's a lot more forgiving than some blocks are. I like to cut around the templates in layers, so you need to make sure that you always layer your fabric with everything right side up, because the templates are not reversible. When I do that, I simply cut one and then I figure out how much fabric I need to be able to cut two out of one piece of fabric, and then I cut multiple sets of that size of fabric. Cutting around templates is a really easy thing to do. It's just like using a rotary ruler. For the straight parts. Now the curved part is a little more complicated because it's such a small curve. So I've got a rotary cutter that's got the 18mm blade instead of what we usually use, because it's just so much easier to go around that little curve. You can work with a convex curve with a regular ruler, but the concave curve, it's just a lot easier if you use a smaller blade. If I were doing this at home, I'd rotate my mat, but because of our constraints of space here in the studio, I had to move my fabric. It's a lot easier to keep things lined up if you don't move your fabric in your template, but rather rotate your mat. Once we have all of our pieces cut, because we're doing curved piecing, we need to mark this so that we know what the center of the piece is. And I work from the back side because you want to put your right sides of your fabric together. So if I put my pin on the back side, it's ready to go. And there is a place marked on the template that shows where that pin goes, or you could use a water-soluble marker if you choose. I pin both halves. So they're marked. And then we're ready to put them together. And the way we want to do that is simply match those two pins and match the raw edges. Pin and mark that, and then go to the end, and remember that you've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so your edge needs to match at the 1/4 inch mark. And then on this flat side, it's going to simply match. So now we've got this thing that looks a little bulky and a little scary, but it's okay. We can pin some more and have things all smoothed out. I like to use that pin that we did in the center, both ends, and then one more pin in the 1/4 marks on each side. And then we're ready to sew. I am a speed sewer, but not on curved piecing. Curved piecing, this is a place where it's nice to go a little more slowly. I don't sew over pins, so I need to stop every once in a while and take out that pin. And then, like I said, I'm using this little straight pin just to make sure that my edges of my fabric are lined up. And I'm sewing slowly. I'm making sure that I have no wrinkles that I'm sewing over, and the easiest way I think to do that is to have the fuller side of the fabric up so I can see whether it's smooth or not, and the side that we're sewing flat is down toward the feed dogs. So it's laying flat already. All we've got to do is be certain that we're not getting any folds or creases in this top layer. And when we get toward this very end, I don't know why it is. Maybe I've got a little too much fabric, but I always have to raise my presser foot for that last inch or so and manipulate the fabric. Once we get to this spot, we've got something that looks like this, and we're going to press. And we want the part that's easy to get flat to be the part that we press the seam away from, just because it's easier. And on this particular block, it's a little counterintuitive because we usually go toward the dark. I'm pressing toward the light, and just, if you need to, take your time and make sure this lays flat. And there you go. Once we have all 8 of our segments, we're going to sew them together in quarters. And I have 2 matching quarters here, so that won't work. But here are 2. Remember when we cut our templates, we had 2 different backgrounds. So each of those backgrounds goes together in sets of 2. And then after we have our sets of 2 sewn together, we sew the quarters together, sew the halves together, and you don't have any seams that you have to match, so your block is fairly easy to construct. You will have quite a bit of bulk here at the center, so you'll have to press that and work a little bit about that. The template set does come with this circle that you can put over the middle. I chose not to do that, but that would help cover up some of that bulk and make it a little easier to work with. So you put the segments together, and you've got this wonderful, easy peasy block. Thanks for joining us.